A true icon of pop music who conquered time and became the most successful performer in the history of music. A woman with a holy name who was at the center of scandals and conflicts throughout her career, with colleagues on the stage, with her husbands, and even with the church. Today we will tell you the long but fascinating story of Madonna. How did an exemplary Catholic woman get on the Playboy pages? Why did the Pope refuse to baptize her child? And how does she manage to remain significant for 40 years? We'll talk about this and much more in today's video. You are on the ENKO Stories channel, and we're getting started. I am my own experiment. I am my own work of art. In September 1987, Madonna performed at the football stadium in the Italian city of Turin and gathered 65,000 spectators. The apotheosis of this evening was her phrase after which the whole stadium burst into endless applause, "I am proud to be Italian." At a distance of 435 miles from Turin is the town of Pacentro, which was left by almost 20,000 Italians in search of a better life at the beginning of the 20th century. Among them were Gaetano and Michelina Ciccione, Madonna's grandparents. The Ciccione couple, having moved to America, settled in a densely populated suburb of Pittsburgh, along with other Italian immigrants. Without a decent education, the only chance to feed the family was hard work at a metallurgical plant. Poor life did not prevent the couple from giving birth to 6 children, the youngest of whom was Silvio Ciccione. He was very different from his parents and brothers. He wanted more and put all his efforts to get rid of so-called immigrant signs. His parents did not speak English and did not even try to learn it. Education was also not a priority, but Silvio understood that knowledge was everything. He started working as a teenager, changed jobs after jobs, saved for college, and at the age of 18, he went to Detroit in search of a better life. He was the only one of the 6 Ciccione children who managed to get an education, and then a prestigious position as an engineer at the Chrysler plant which manufactured missiles and tanks. Then there was the army and service in Alaska, and then a life-changing meeting with a beautiful woman with an equally beautiful name, Madonna Louise. She was the younger sister of his colleague, and Silvio was so in love that he did not pay attention to the fact that at that time the woman was already engaged. After all, Madonna Louise also did not care for this. They got married in 1955, a year after their first son Anthony was born. Another year later, son Martin, and another year later, on August 16, 1958, the couple finally had a girl who was named after her mother, Madonna. To avoid confusion, the girl was called Little Nani. In the mid-1950s, a typical American family usually had only one person working, but the Ciccione family already had 3 children and 3 more were to appear in the near future, so both parents worked. Madonna Louise worked as an X-ray technician. She spent all her little free time cooking for the whole family and taking care of her offspring. In addition to Little Nani, the parents had 3 more sons and 2 daughters. Many warm memories from Madonna's childhood are related to her mother. I remember her generous, angelic nature. She kept the house clean and was constantly tidying up after us as we were very messy, unruly children. She loved to sing and knew the words to all the songs. It's precisely this that I missed the most when she's gone. Unruly children was no exaggeration. Because of them, the parents quarreled with all the neighbors, because the older brothers constantly broke windows, set things on fire, and fought with other children. Despite this, the parents never shouted, and even more so, never punished them physically. The Cicciones were very devout Catholics, and their children were surrounded by religion from an early age. Every morning, the parents woke up the children at 6 o'clock to spend an hour in the church, and from there they were picked up by a bus and taken to the parish school. When Madonna Louise was pregnant with her last daughter, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. She considered abortion to be murder under any circumstances, so she did not get permission for treatment until she gave birth to Melanie. Unfortunately, it was already too late. The woman lost her strength very quickly and faded before her family's eyes. Little children did not understand what was happening to their mother, but she never complained and hid her pain until the end. Louise began to tire quickly and more often just sat on her favorite couch, not having the strength to even play with the children. One day, when Louise was resting from work, little Nani climbed onto her back and began to persuade her to play with her, as she had done before. In response to this, her mother simply burst into tears. Madonna Louise Ciccione spent the last year of her life in the hospital. Even without any hope of recovery, she continued to joke, and when the children came to visit her, she tried to look cheerful. In the last days before her death, Louise could not eat solid food, but she saw a burger in little Nani's hands and jokingly asked to share it with her. She was gone within an hour. My father said she had died, but I still hoped that she would come back, and we never talked about it. I only saw my father cry once. The death of her mother made the 5-year-old Madonna become even more attached to her father, and at times this attachment resembled addiction. She constantly had nightmares about her own death, and she escaped from them in her father's bed. She trembled, clung to him, and repeated, "If you die, let me be buried with you." Religious Silvio did not approve of death thoughts, but he also understood how hard it was for his children to lose their mother. My father was very strong. I don't agree with a lot of the ways he brought me up, Madonna recalled. I don't agree with a lot of his values, but he did have a lot of integrity, and if he told us not to do something, he didn't do it either. Little Madonna convinced herself that she had the same disease as her mother. The pretend symptoms seemed so real that as soon as she went outside, she began to feel nauseous and felt real, completely unimaginable horror. Salvation awaited only at home in her father's arms, who became the center of her existence after her mother's death. Surviving the loss, the father plunged headlong into work and was constantly looking for governesses so that there would be someone to look after the house. None of them stayed long because it was not so easy to take care of 6 children. Finally, in 1966, he hired Joan Gustafsson, who was able to take care of the children, and after 6 months, Silvio married her. For Madonna, who was used to being in the center of her father's attention, it was crucial to her self-esteem. Father asked to call Joan Mom, but Madonna stubbornly protested and did not agree. In addition, the new mother was not ready to take on all the children at once, so Madonna had to take care of her younger sister and brother herself. In 1968, the family moved to Rochester, where Madonna spent her teenage years. The town was just being developed and was surrounded on all sides by green hills, farm fields, and forests. In short, a real paradise for children with bicycles. But the 10-year-old Madonna didn't have much free time as she was increasingly responsible for Jennifer and Mario, sister and half-brother. She felt like Cinderella and saw Joan as an evil stepmother. Her father was also against the children turning out lazy. Television was banned, and when the kids were not studying, he found them some work around the house and consistently taught that laziness was the root of all problems. The father also insisted that each of the children should learn at least one musical instrument. Madonna got a piano, but she couldn't stand it and persuaded her father to send her to a local theater studio. There, she learned to dance jazz, tap, ballet, and also took part in school plays. Her very first performance shocked everyone, especially her father. It was a children's amateur concert, and the whole hall was packed with parents. Madonna appeared on stage almost without clothes. She was wearing a bikini, and she was completely covered in fluorescent paint. While Madonna danced to the clockwork track, her father seethed with anger and even forgot to take a photo on his Polaroid. Everyone present in the audience gave her a long standing ovation, but her father did not appreciate the performance and was mad with little Nani for a long time. The constant presence of the church in Madonna's life led to the fact that by the age of 12, she was literally obsessed with the idea of becoming a nun. They seemed so omnipotent and superior creatures like angels to her. They never used cosmetics. They looked carefree and mysterious. It was because of this that she sometimes sneaked into the monastery and spied on how the nuns changed their clothes. In 1970, Madonna entered the 7th grade and was not in a church school for the first time. She studied well, but her openness and lack of barriers in communication with boys did not work in favor of her reputation. Once a classmate even slapped her just because her friend kept talking about Madonna in her presence. Besides boys, Madonna also adored music. With a friend, they could listen to Aretha Franklin and Joni Mitchell for hours. Her first idol in music was the legendary Nancy Sinatra, primarily because of her appearance, a miniskirt, blonde hair, and long, false eyelashes. She also wanted to sing, but according to her friends' memories, there was nothing special in Madonna's voice, nothing that would indicate future success. The entire summer of 1972, Madonna and her friends spent time at her grandmother's house, who followed much less strict rules than her father. Here, they could go out after 10 p.m. They tried alcohol for the first time. Madonna's uncle played in a rock band, so the girls followed them everywhere, wearing tight jeans and holding a cigarette in their teeth. I think the biggest reason I was able to express myself and not be intimidated was by not having a mother. For example, mothers teach you manners, and I absolutely did not learn any of those rules and regulations. That summer became a turning point in Madonna's life. Having tasted true freedom, she could no longer return to her former life. Together with a friend, they stuffed bras with cotton wool, wore tight clothes, applied a ton of makeup on their faces, then took pictures of each other and showed them to everyone. However, under the feigned bravado were hidden fears that did not go anywhere. The nightmares where she was killed by a nameless person returned, and to her every mole on her body seemed to be a symptom of cancer that would kill her, like it did with her mother. In the same year, Madonna transferred to Rochester Adams High School, where she studied for 4 years. As before, she showed excellent results in studies, and the result of the IQ test showed 140 points. Einstein had only 20 more. Besides studies, Madonna led a busy extracurricular life. She worked as a lifeguard and swimming instructor at the Avon Hills Club. She attended the Fringe Club, sang in the school choir, and she also organized the school drama club where she participated in all plays from Cinderella to The Wizard of Oz. Despite her excellent academic results, she was not an exemplary child, and even then she put provocation above everything else. One day when the cheerleaders were making a living pyramid during the opposing competition, Madonna climbed to the top and unabashedly showed that she had nothing under her skirt. In fact, she was wearing skin-colored tights, but the result turned out to be what she intended. At this school, Madonna befriended Vin Cooper, who was a year older. He already had a car, so they often just drove around the city, listened to Spiders from Mars, and smoked pot. These were not prodigal children. They studied well, read a lot. At that time, Madonna adored the novels of Aldous Huxley and David Lawrence and read a book per day. It was Cooper who was responsible for Madonna's acting debut. He was shooting a short film for a school project and invited Madonna and her friend Carol to star in it. The film did not pretend to be a masterpiece. In the frame, the girls just sit in front of the camera, then lie down on the floor, and her friend fries a chicken egg on her stomach. For the film, Cooper got an A, and Madonna's famous belly button, which would later become her trademark, first appeared in the movie. Friendship with Cooper really awakened Madonna's interest in art, but her talent needed to find the right application. She was helped by Christopher Flynn, a dance teacher whom Madonna met at a ballet studio in downtown Detroit. Christopher was 30 years older, but instantly became her teacher, mentor, and the main man in her life after her father. Madonna was a blank page, and she wanted desperately to be filled in. She had a thirst for learning that would not be denied. Christopher not only demanded unconditional devotion to dancing from Madonna, but also simultaneously engaged in her development. He recommended literature, took her to concerts and exhibitions, thereby instilling her interest in art. Thanks to these trips to downtown Detroit, Madonna discovered gay culture. She was 16 growing up, rebelling against the conservative ideas that surrounded her at home and at school, so gay clubs became her second home. With Christopher, they often visited the Minjo's Club, where Al Capone took his mistress decades earlier. In the 70s, this club became the most popular gay club in Detroit, with long lines gathered every evening. Madonna adored nightlife, danced for hours to disco classics, was the soul of the club, and a local celebrity. In Flynn's company, she had nothing to fear. He was loved and respected, and his sexual orientation rejected any other fears. I feel that most gay men are so much more in touch with a certain kind of sensitivity that heterosexual men aren't allowed to be in touch with, their feminine side. To me, they're whole human beings, more so than most of the straight men that I know. Despite this, Madonna was in love with Christopher because it was he who helped her understand how attractive and talented she was. But he didn't just shower her compliments. Christopher was a tough, almost sadistic teacher who made his students dance until their feet were covered in bloody calluses. The more Madonna delved into the world of creativity, the more she distanced herself from her peers. She changed her appearance, stopped dyeing her hair, started wearing denim overalls and army boots. For her, the ballet studio was a sacred place where she could relax and get away from everything, from religious parents and peers who spread humiliating rumors about her. It seemed that she was even offended that she was called a whore behind her back while she still remained a virgin. She corrected this misunderstanding with her characteristic determination. The girl was 15 years old when she met 17-year-old Russell Long, whom she chose to be her first man. Although he tried to seem like a hero lover, in reality he was shy and very surprised when, after the date, Madonna directly offered him to go to his house. After graduating early from Adams High, Christopher helped Madonna get a scholarship to the College of Michigan in Ann Arbor City, which was also sometimes called the Harvard of the West. She enrolled in the dance department, where Christopher also got a teaching position, so the relocation did not separate them, but made them even closer. Madonna had all the qualities that a dancer should have: inquisitiveness, the ability to manage time well, and work diligently. She wanted to be different from others, so sometimes she behaved defiantly and recklessly. It was a punk look, but really it was childish. a little girl desperate for attention. She lived in a dormitory, devoted all her free time to dancing and preparing for university performances. Wanting to win the teacher's favor even more, she sat on cruel diets and was close to anorexia. Before each lesson, the students got on the scales. The one who weighed more than 114 pounds had to lose weight before the next class or stop attending them forever. And although classes took almost all of her strength, Madonna still visited clubs with her friends where they conquered the dance floors. In one of these clubs, she met Stephen Bray, who many years later would become her co-author. In those years, he played drums in the band Cost of Living, and Madonna and her friends came to every concert and captured all the attention in the dance floor. Sometimes it seemed that most people came to see her. I was used to dancing, but only when someone told you what to do. So in the nightclub, I was all over the place. I combined everything. Street dance, modern dance, a bit of jazz and ballet. I was Alvin Ailey. I was Michael Jackson. I didn't care. I was free. Her mentor kept saying that her talent was too great for this city and that success shouldn't be sought there, but in New York. Everyone was against it, especially her father, but Flynn didn't stop and continued to plant doubts in her head. In the end, the young woman realized that she was just wasting precious time in the slow world of academic dance. So she saved up money for a ticket and decided to go to New York. Her father disapproved of her decision to drop out of college, which she already spent 2 years on. But during one conversation, Madonna threw a plate at the wall and screamed at him to stop making decisions for her. And although she apologized, from that day, their relationship became noticeably colder. Nevertheless, it was then that Madonna got fired up with the idea of making a name for herself. For this, it was definitely essential to leave Detroit. She didn't quite know what she was going to do, but she was already obsessed with getting noticed. This could only be done in New York. I wanted to be a big star, she recalled. I didn't know anybody. I wanted to dance. I wanted to sing. I wanted to make people happy. I wanted to be famous. I wanted everybody to love me. I wanted to be a star. I worked really hard, and my dream came true. In July 1978, Madonna flew to New York. She had a small suitcase, ballet slippers, and $37 in her purse. She drove through the city, got out on 42nd Street, and noticed that an unknown man was chasing her. She spoke to him first, told that she had just arrived and she had nowhere to live, to which the stranger offered to live with him. Returning home with nothing was scarier. She lived there for 2 weeks, looking for a job at the same time. Then she was able to rent a small room with giant cockroaches. Madonna got a job at the Dunkin' Donuts cafe, but very soon Christopher contacted her and told her that a 6-week seminar, an advanced dance technique course taught by Pearl Lang, was about to start. The money was barely enough to get to the university, but already there it turned out that Madonna was one of 300 candidates. Only 6 scholarships were planned for classes. But of course, she got one. After joining the Pearl Lang troupe, Madonna very quickly began to get roles in plays. But it was difficult to make money from it. She worked intermittently at Burger King until she got an opportunity to work as a model. She posed naked for artists and photographers, but did not see anything terrible in this, because in her opinion, she served art. The other way a dancer could make money was topless dancing, which a lot of the dancers, even some of the bigger dancers, did. Madonna never did that. She saw it as too compromising. Shortly after Madonna joined the troupe, she had to experience a tragic event. She was attacked with a knife in one of the criminal districts. Threatening, the stranger dragged her to the roof of the house and forced her to have sex. She returned home deeply shocked, but did not tell anyone about this. She continued to behave as usual with her friends and pals, but something in her did change forever. It became more and more difficult for her to adhere to the strict discipline that dancing required. She was often absent-minded, and then she decided to quit classes altogether. Madonna fell out with Lang and stopped attending rehearsals. She spent the next few months trying to recover, working out at home, dating artist Norris Burroughs, and trying to figure out what to do next. In 1979, Madonna began dating musician Dan Gilroy, who was a member of the band Breakfast Club. Shortly after this acquaintance, Madonna got an invitation to work in Paris as a soloist of a disco show. There were many plans, but not all of them were implemented. Fortunately, she saw an ad in the magazine looking for a dancer who would agree to act for free. Madonna sent a resume to director Stephen John Lewitsky and got a role in the movie A Certain Sacrifice. The role was not easy to play, as there was a scene of sexual violence that brought back painful recent memories. Maybe that's why her fear in the frame looked so real. It was not possible to complete the film on time. The director ran out of budget, so the movie was released only in 1985, when Madonna was already famous. Madonna could not achieve particular success in Paris, but she already wanted to do music. So after returning to America, she joined Gilroy's band. She had a good sense of rhythm, so she spent the first few months behind the drum set, only occasionally singing along to the lead singer. And although they gave several concerts, nothing came out of it, so she left the band and founded a new band called Madonna and the Sky. At that time, Madonna's old friend Stephen Bray came back to New York, joined her new band, and later became her lover. The band was renamed simply Madonna, but they could not find their own sound and style for a long time. They needed a professional's opinion and advice. In the spring of 1981, the band rehearsed on the 10th floor of the music building on West 39th Street, which also housed Camille Barbone's recording studio. Madonna met her in the elevator and, after a short conversation, invited her to a rehearsal. Camille didn't come, so Madonna visited her office and threw a real tantrum. Frightened, Camille promised that she would come next time. She fulfilled her promise, listened to their songs, and agreed to be her manager, but only her, not the whole band. Madonna didn't want to leave her friends, but her career was more important. Madonna moved to another apartment where there were fewer cockroaches and began to receive $100 a week from Camille. She was a street-savvy kid who'd pick up someone to go home with if she was hungry and needed a meal. That's how she survived. She was living in a hovel in a dangerous part of town. I wanted to give her a safe haven because in a lot of ways, she seemed wounded. Despite the fact that Camila volunteered to work with Madonna, for a long time she considered her protege an average musician. According to Camille, Madonna didn't have an incredible talent, but she had a great sense of poetry, knew how to write songs, and was natural on stage. The first demo album was recorded at the legendary studio Media Sound, famous for such musicians as Sinatra and the Beatles. Her dream was beginning to come true, although according to producer John Gordon, things were not going well. Nevertheless, they managed to record 4 songs in a few weeks. Madonna did everything herself, recorded the guitars, organ, drum machine, and wrote the lyrics. The producer only watched and polished what was done. Little by little, Madonna and the musicians she worked with in the studio began to perform in small clubs and at student parties. She bribed with her naturalness. So far, she was loved for the fact that she was a pretty and honest girl. The recordings made at Camille's studio were sent to various labels, but this did not bring much results. No one was going to fight for them. According to Camille, this brought more quarrels to the band, and Madonna was no picnic either. Sometimes she behaved like a child that all the other band members, including Camille, had to take care of, bringing her food, driving around the city after concerts, going to the movies with her, or just talking to her on the phone at night because she was bored. I'm tough, I'm ambitious, and I know exactly what I want. If that makes me a bitch, okay. She was unbearable. Once she painted Camille's dogs with the word f on one and s on the other, but her usual trick was a loud belch in the most unexpected places. This is how she drew attention to herself if she needed to insert a word. And while you're trying to figure it out, let us know in the comments if you have any weird habits that make you unique. It will be very interesting to read. Everyone understood that Madonna was ready for anything for the sake of her career, but the producers were not ready to risk everything for her. She understood that the career was developing too slowly. Accusations poured towards Camille, and she, in turn, threatened to cancel all planned concerts. For a while, they came to an agreement. Madonna gave her first big performance at the Underground Club, after which everything went like clockwork. Madonna met David Johansen, who introduced the potential star to influential colleagues, after which she received several great offers. Madonna felt the approach of fame, saw an opportunity, and she didn't care what Camille would say. I didn't have enough juice to get her to the next level. I was falling apart from it. I'd invested so much money. I basically had a meltdown because I was losing it and I knew she was going to go all the way to the top, and it blew my mind. After parting ways with Camille, Madonna continued looking for options and met DJ Mark Kamens, who essentially discovered Madonna. One day, she approached him in a club and made him take a cassette with the song Everybody. It is not known what Mark liked more, Madonna or the song, but they began dating, and then he gave the record to his friend Chris Blackwell, the record producer of Island Records. He He was not interested in the recording at all. Moreover, Madonna disgusted him. She stayed up all night before the meeting and even forgot to take a shower. Then her boyfriend took her to his other acquaintance, Seymour Stein. He was also not impressed by the records, but he trusted his friend and offered Madonna a contract to record 2 singles. In the summer of 1982, Everybody and Ain't No Big Deal were recorded. The single Everybody had some success as for a debut and quickly spread in the nightclubs. At this time, Madonna had an affair with a young but already famous artist, Jean-Michel Basquiat. He abused illegal substances, was a depressed person, but at the same time, an unsurpassed artist. He despised pop culture but adored Madonna. They complemented each other, although of course not in everything. He liked her original creativity and energy, but Madonna got quickly tired of his pessimism. Each of her days was marked by the hour, and her lover slept until the evening, then woke up and engaged in self-destruction. Eventually, she got tired and dumped him, concentrating on recording the second single, Burning Up. It was not easy to repeat the previous single's success, but the label prepared a new producer who was able to make her vocals more saturated, and they also financed the music video. Now, it looks quite banal, an average script and video, but it was the first time that listeners saw Madonna, and because of it, interest in her began to grow even more. The debut album, called Madonna, was released in 1983 and was received quite coolly. Some called it a set of disco tunes, someone called it music for aerobics. Actually, Madonna didn't care. She started a campaign aimed at recognizing the album, arranged a large-scale club tour, and almost forcibly drew attention to the album. A huge role in this album was played by DJ and producer John Jellybean Benitez, who helped Madonna reach a completely different level. They met in a club when Madonna just came over to share ideas, and then it turned into a collaboration and a relationship at the same time. Together, they made her long-playing hit, Holiday. Making music in the mid-80s meant competing directly with Prince and Michael Jackson, who were at the peak of their popularity at the time. Nevertheless, it only fueled the excitement, and Madonna was going to release a second album as soon as possible. Madonna understood that in order to become a superstar, she needed to do something fundamentally new. She was helped by Nile Rodgers, a producer who worked with David Bowie and now turned his attention to the young singer. The main song, Like a Virgin, could not be released at all. Firstly, Rodgers didn't like it. Secondly, the song about a virgin woman of easy behavior was beyond any morality at that time. The producers believed that no one would listen to it, moreover sing it. Nevertheless, after finishing work on the album, Madonna gathered a small orchestra for the upcoming tour and then went to Venice to shoot the music video for Like a Virgin. In September 1984, Madonna did something that immediately made her the subject of discussion for the next few months. She sang Like a Virgin at the first live MTV Awards ceremony. The artist was dressed in a wedding dress, sat on a wedding cake, and then went on stage and began to imitate sexual intercourse. On that day, photographers almost crushed each other trying to capture the star of the evening. Her bold, sometimes simply provocative performances often became the object of discussion and indignation among disturbed parents. Madonna did not care. She had her own position and opinion on this matter.
Personally, I wouldn't be worried about it, and this is why. Because I think that sexuality is something that Americans would really rather just sweep up under the rug.
The future success of the second album coincided with the stunning success in the cinema when Madonna starred in Susan Seidelman's movie Desperately Seeking Susan. The best actresses of those times auditioned for the main role, but none of them were suitable for it, and the director turned her attention to Madonna. This happened at a time when the album was just being recorded and Madonna was not yet very popular. Although she was an inexperienced actress, there was something about her attitude. She was so self-confident and right for the character. I thought, if we can bring this quality to the part, that will be amazing. Almost immediately after its release, the film gained cult status, and several publications dubbed it a classic of the 80s. The box office also confirmed this opinion. The film grossed $28 million with a budget of $5 million. Madonna's popularity grew so much that the film was associated exclusively with her, although her role was not the main one.
I think it's what everybody says, the lack of privacy and the idea that you're not really allowed to make mistakes and everything that you do is viewed.
The success of the album Madonna and the film led to the fact that the tour had to be redone. It was not planned as a stadium one, but the number of people wishing to come was so large that it was necessary to urgently look for larger concert halls. Later in an interview, Madonna mentioned the first concert she did on the Virgin Tour in Seattle. It literally sucked the life out of me, sucked the air out of my lungs when I walked on stage. Not a bad feeling, not an out-of-control feeling, but an otherworldly feeling that nothing could prepare you for. 1985 was definitely Madonna's year. At once, 7 of her songs entered the top 5 American singles, and the whole country was gradually infected with Madonna mania. One incident that happened during the tour speaks well of her popularity. They performed in San Francisco. The hall was packed, and in the center, together with his bodyguards, stood the Prince himself, who came to see the new star. While the album and tour turned her career upside down, her personal life also began to change. She met her first husband, Sean Penn. At that time, he was already a famous Hollywood actor, and his face was on the cover of the Rolling Stones. They met on the set of her music video, Material Girl, and at first, there was no indication that these two would get married. Madonna experienced a rapid rise, but her personal life did not work out. Not so long ago, she broke up with Jelly Bean and found out that she was pregnant. She did not leave the child, although this decision was not easy for her. Things developed slowly with Sean, but eventually, a slight fascination grew into a passion. This meeting changed Madonna. Before that, she treated the relationship as something that just is. Here, she fell head over heels in love. They were both devoted to their profession, and it united them. The couple settled on the West Coast and decided to get married 6 months after meeting. When it became known about their engagement, pictures of naked Madonna appeared in the press, which were taken during the period when she had nothing to pay for the apartment. This angered Sean, and Madonna took the situation philosophically as a price for popularity. The wedding was grand, but not with excesses. Among the guests were the first celebrities from Christopher Walken to Andy Warhol. Despite the fact that the wedding was planned as a secret, the paparazzi almost disrupted the ceremony. They appeared in helicopters and hovered over the house taking pictures. Singer Bill Myers, who was present at the ceremony, recalled this event as follows. I was standing next to Martin Sheen as the helicopters came in. He was flinching and jerking involuntarily because it reminded him of his experience in filming Apocalypse Now. Madonna was going ballistic, giving them the finger, while Sean was running in the house for his shotgun. Not even the priest could be heard. Everything was muffled by the sound of the helicopter's propellers. Furthermore, at the end of the evening, the drunk groom got into a fight with an English photographer who came without an invitation. The newlyweds spent their honeymoon in Antigua. After returning, they settled in Beverly Hills and even starred in the not-so-successful film Shanghai Surprise. With a budget of $17 million, it grossed only $2 million, and filming was accompanied by constant problems. The movie was shot in a criminal district of Hong Kong. Once the film crew was locked in a garage for 20 hours, demanding a ransom of $50,000. As for Madonna's music career, it continued to develop at an unprecedented pace. In the autumn, she began recording a new album called True Blue, with which she was helped by the legendary Pat Leonard, who had previously worked with Pink Floyd, Elton John, and dozens of other legends. It was he who helped shape her unique style. When the debut album was just a collection of different songs, the eccentric Like a Virgin was essentially a musical search. On the third album, Madonna finally found her voice. Madonna's best-selling album at the time was recorded in a tiny studio that, apart from the equipment, could fit only 2 people. Madonna was happy. Sometimes Penn came to the studio. Despite the fact that Madonna dedicated the album to him, he did not feel particularly enthusiastic. The woman did not seem to notice this. The greatest joy, apart from love, was brought to her by the fact that she was one of the record's producers. That is, it was no longer necessary to hire anyone. Everything could be done independently. The first song which Madonna worked on together with Leonard was Open Your Heart. It's no secret that Madonna's songs were quite simple, which is why they were well received by listeners and not accepted by critics. They accused her of a formulaic approach to music, of monotony, which is why she was not recognized as a full-fledged musician for a long time. The song Open Your Heart became a new stage in Madonna's work. It sounded easy, pleasant, and at the same time, did not seem primitive. True Blue was released in June 1986 and was an incredible success, reaching #1 on the charts in 28 countries worldwide. It spent 34 consecutive weeks at the top of the European Top 100 albums, more than any other album in history. Moreover, the release became the best-selling album in the world in 1986 and is still one of the best-selling albums of all time, with more than 25 million copies sold.
It's just bigger than anything I could ever imagine.
Soon after the album release, Madonna got a role in James Foley's film, Who's That Girl? Despite the fact that the authors, the director, and Madonna tried to make the film high quality, it turned out to be a complete failure. But this failure was fully compensated by the success of her tour in support of the third album. It differed in scale from the previous one and began to resemble a real theatrical production. The show and the album True Blue ensured her immortality. Madonna declared herself a global phenomenon, but success was overshadowed by tragedies. Her friend Martin Burgoyne died in the winter. Her friend Andy Warhol died of a heart attack 4 months before the tour began. And in 1988, her ex-boyfriend Jean-Michel Basquiat died of an overdose. Moreover, Sean became more and more aggressive, more and more fond of weapons and alcohol. By 1987, it was obvious that Sean's love story was coming to an end. From the moment they got married, their relationship became the headlines of the tabloids, something Sean was clearly not ready for. The constant presence of the paparazzi put the actor off balance. Sometimes he had to answer for his aggression in front of the court. For example, during the filming of Shanghai Surprise, a photographer broke into their room to take some exclusive pictures, but he regretted it very much. Sean Penn hung him from the 9th floor window and held only his feet. He was arrested for this, but Sean escaped from custody and illegally left the country. In 1987, when Madonna was on tour with the Who's That Girl, Sean spent 33 days in a cell in a Los Angeles jail where he was imprisoned for assaulting composer David Walensky, who dared to kiss Madonna on the cheek. He liked to get handsy and play with weapons, but Madonna liked it less and less. In December 1987, she filed for divorce, and during this hiatus, she briefly dated John F. Kennedy Jr., the son of the assassinated president. At the age of 30, she was a singer with a worldwide name, but completely exhausted emotionally. Madonna told her friends that she still loved Sean, but the heartache forced her to dig deeper into herself and try to make sense of what was happening in her life. She began to think about her past, about her family, and what led her to such a state. Thoughts naturally flowed into the song, and the results of this rethinking was the album Like a Prayer. In the late 80s, when the world was going through a financial crisis, singing about parties seemed inappropriate. Besides, Madonna was growing up. Her audience was growing up with her. It was time to write serious music. She was 30. Her first marriage had fallen apart, and she often remembered the past. Her parents, her siblings, her religion, her failed marriage. She was upset and in tears a lot of the time. Normally, she's a very fast worker, but it took maybe 3 or 4 times as long to make the record because she kept breaking down. We called it her divorce album. The album has a certain concept. Almost all the stories in it are related to her Catholic upbringing in one way or another. The holy trinity of songs, Like a Prayer, O Father, and Promise to Try, are memories of what place religion occupied in her life. It is also worth noting that these songs from Like a Prayer use many words from the liturgy. For example, the composition with the same name is not just a combination of a pleasant melody and verses with religious overtones, but also a reflection on prayer. But, of course, with Madonna's characteristic irony. There's an interesting story associated with this song. Madonna signed an advertising contract with the Pepsi company, according to which she was to receive $1 million. The innocent advert was aired shortly before the release of the single Like a Prayer, followed by a music video. In the video, Madonna kissed the Black Christ, cried bloody tears, danced among burning crosses, and they end with an intimate scene in front of the altar. Sometimes I'm racked with guilt when I needn't be, and that to me is left over from my Catholic upbringing. In Catholicism, you are born a sinner and you are a sinner all of your life. No matter how you try to get away from it, the sin is within you all the time. The video was shown on the evening broadcast of the MTV channel and caused a stormy reaction from religious organizations. Madonna's behavior was called blasphemy, and church leaders called on their followers to boycott Pepsi. With the rest, the company withdrew advertising featuring the singer, the contract was terminated, but Madonna still got her $1 million. The release of the album Like a Prayer became a turning point in Madonna's creative career and attracted the attention of a completely new audience. Nevertheless, despite her success and creativity, she still felt lonely. In February 1989, Madonna starred in a movie again, this time in the crime comedy Dick Tracy. After the flops of Shanghai Surprise and Who's That Girl, this role became very important as her acting career finally took off. On the film set, she met and later started dating the famous actor and director Warren Beatty. When the movie was released, the couple started a real romance. After the painful breakup with Sean, Madonna finally had calm and happy days. She seemed to have found herself in a fairy tale. It seemed that now she had everything: success in Hollywood, a caring and rich boyfriend, respect in the two most important areas. Her carefree, romantic mood was reflected in the album I'm Breathless. Madonna got into the role of her character and tried to recreate the atmosphere of the 30s nightclub. In contrast to the serious, reflective girl of Like a Prayer, in this album Madonna appeared as a frivolous coquette. In some parts there was too much theatricality, but her sincere enthusiasm did not allow the album to be treated as a parody. In the song Now I'm Following You, Madonna sang with her lover, Beatty, and his soft, seductive voice seemed to hint at their close relationship. The last track, which gained incredible popularity, stands out quite strongly from the overall mood of the album. Vogue is an ode to movie actresses of the 40s, but recorded to modern disco. Director David Fincher shot a stylish black and white clip in which he showed Madonna as if she really stepped out of a fashion poster of the 40s. The relationship with Warren did not work out for several reasons. Firstly, he was 20 years older, they had different pace of life and priorities. Sometimes Madonna was not shy to directly tell Warren that he needs to lose weight and take better care of his skin. The man was offended, although he did not allow himself to lose his temper, and they often quarreled. Even the diamond engagement ring Warren gave Madonna on one of their dates didn't help. The relationship reached an impasse and remained purely professional. Before the next album release, Madonna unexpectedly decided to try herself in literature and wrote a book called Sex. It was released in a limited edition of 1.5 million copies and was no longer reprinted. This book was a rather strange journey into the sexual fantasies of its author, which were revealed primarily through photographs. In these pictures, Madonna depicted the act of love with various people, including Naomi Campbell, Boudoukier, and Vanilla Ice, whom Madonna was dating at the time. The book caused embarrassment rather than shock. Accusations poured in from all sides. Society was frightened by the new HIV epidemic and did not appreciate such frank stories about sex. The book was not supported by religious organizations, not only in the USA, but also in other countries. So, in Japan and India, the book was banned for sale, and the French publishers were sued. Even Vanilla Ice decided to end his relationship with Madonna because she used his photos without permission. Of course, Madonna did not expect the Nobel Prize for Literature, but she probably did not expect that most of the reviews would be negative. Is sex shocking? Not really. Mostly because it's Madonna, and somehow we've come to expect this from her. Is sex boring? Surprisingly, yes. After a failure in the literary field, Madonna survived another one in the musical world, releasing her fourth album, Erotica. Madonna was a 33-year-old woman with a lot of life experience and a complex emotional world who had something to share. This album was as controversial as the book Sex. Although Erotica may be Madonna's most personal and daring album, it is also her least successful. In total, only 5 million copies were sold. The album title best described its content. Madonna continued to raise themes of sexuality while doing so much more openly than in her early works. And although the album was not a commercial success, Madonna did not consider it a failure. After a short break, she returned to the studio, continuing her experiments with music. At first, she held several meetings with hip-hop producers, one of whom was Kenneth Edmonds, better known as Babyface. The result of their joint work was the touching love ballad Take a Bow, which topped the American charts. Babyface introduced Madonna to a young, talented producer, Dallas Austin, who created songs for TLC and was well known in music circles. The collaboration resulted in 2 songs, Secret and Sanctuary, for her new album Bedtime Stories. Madonna decided to diversify her music and turned her attention to Great Britain, where artists such as Björk, Massive Attack, and Soul II Soul entered the music arena. The experiment received mixed reviews, however, it went triple platinum in the US, was nominated for a Grammy, and sold 7 million copies. To the doubters and naysayers and everyone who gave me hell and said I could not, that I would not, or I must not, your resistance made me stronger, made me push harder, and made me the fighter that I am today. So thank you. Probably any celebrity has been chased by crazy fans, and Madonna was no exception. In 1995, she began to be pursued by Robert Hoskins, who was obsessed with her and who thought he was her husband. He sent strange letters to the star, and once he came to her house, where he was caught by guards and handcuffed to the fence. Frightened, Madonna left the city, and because of this, even canceled a meeting with Princess Diana, who was supposed to come to visit. Later, she moved to another house, but the fan appeared again. Now, he tried to grab a gun from a security guard, as a result of which he received 3 bullets and ended up in the hospital, and later received 10 years in prison. Of course, she dreamed of meeting her love, but this stalker was definitely not the one she was looking for. During this period, Madonna could not maintain long relationships with men, although there were several attempts. After a short affair with Tupac Shakur, who was soon killed in Las Vegas, Madonna met a man far from show business. He turned out to be Carlos Leon, an ordinary fitness trainer with whom she met during the period when she starred in the new film Evita. Madonna wrote the soundtrack, and after completing the work on the music, she began to study the story of Evita Peron, the character whose role she was supposed to play. Evita was a woman of incredible charm who gave her life to the political struggle and sought to achieve the suffrage for women. This role became one of the best in her film career. Filming with a budget of $55 million began in February 1996. The role of Cuban revolutionary Che Guevara was played by Antonio Banderas, and Jonathan Pryce played Peron. During the filming of Evita, Madonna discovered that she was pregnant with Leon's baby, which made her role even more meaningful. There's a scene in the film where she dances with Banderas in an empty room and then collapses to the floor, writhing in pain. At that time, Madonna was in her 3rd month, and it was not easy for her to hide her pregnancy. While a deadly tumor grew in Evita's womb, life was growing inside Madonna. On October 14, 1996, Madonna's first daughter was born in Los Angeles, whom she named Lola, and at baptism, Lourdes.
I mean, every day I'm in complete wonderment of her, and I love being woken up in the morning. I love her coming in the room and kissing me and waking me up.
Carlos Leon cut the umbilical cord, gave Madonna all parental rights to the child, and his mission was accomplished. Apparently, he still receives offers from time to time to write a book about life with Madonna, but even after breaking up with her, he has never discussed it publicly. The stunning success of Evita opened up new opportunities for Madonna to act in high-budget films, and the Golden Globe, which she received from the Association of Foreign Press, confirmed her success. Madonna was recognized as the Best Actress in a Musical, and this award deservedly recognized the many years of hard work and perseverance of the star. Oscar for the song You Must Love Me became a pleasant bonus for efforts. In March 1998, Madonna released the new album Ray of Light. It received very positive reviews. Rolling Stone magazine called it brilliant. Slant considered it one of the most beautiful masterpieces of pop music of the 90s. Since its release, 17 million copies have been sold. The album has received 4 Grammys, and her fandom has expanded to serious music lovers. At that moment, it was safe to say that the career finally took off. In addition, she gave birth to a wonderful daughter. All she lacked was a reliable life partner. There were whole chunks of my life where I was so lonely and wondered if it was ever going to be possible for me to have a relationship that was going to last. I did wonder if it was possible to find a man who could handle me, as well as a man I could handle. But then, just when I wasn't looking, I found one. Once at Sting's party, Madonna met the young and very promising director Guy Ritchie. He was just looking for a sponsor for the new film Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and Sting's wife, Trudy Styler, became this sponsor. Charming and bold, Ritchie was 10 years younger than Madonna. He independently made a career and fully corresponded to Madonna's ideas about a real man. Despite the emotional closeness, it took a long time before they could be together. Guy was still dating the model Tanya Strecker, so at first they were secretly dating in a cozy studio in London. In early 2000, Madonna discovered that she was pregnant. This time, she had no doubts about whether to keep the child, but the moment was clearly not the best. Although Guy wanted to become a father, he was not going to get married. As for Madonna, she just started working on a new album. The success of the previous release inspired her so much that she was extremely eager to get back into the studio as soon as possible. At that moment, Guy had already broken up with Tanya Strecker, and now he and Madonna could be together. He even gave up alcohol during her pregnancy so as not to tempt her. On August 10th, a month before the scheduled delivery, Madonna started bleeding and was hospitalized. Guy at that moment was at a closed screening of his new film, and when he was able to get to the hospital, Madonna had already lost a lot of blood and was unconscious. The situation was so serious that she was immediately sent for surgery. The boy, Rocco, was born on August 11th. Because he needed special care, he spent the first 5 days of his life in intensive care, after which Madonna and Guy were allowed to take him home, and a few months later, they were married. This time, secrecy was preserved and no paparazzi helicopters appeared at the ceremony. Her new album, Music, was released a month after Rocco's birth and seriously influenced the current music industry. In the US charts and in some other countries, the single, Music, quickly got to the first place and was equal to her 1994 composition, Take a Bow, in terms of success. The record received a Grammy Award and an honorable 452nd place in the list of the best albums of all time, according to the rating of Rolling Stone magazine. One of the music videos for the song from the album was directed by Guy Ritchie himself. By the end of the year, her media popularity began to skyrocket. The couple, Madonna and Ritchie, became the main focus of media attention, displacing even David and Victoria Beckham. After spending their honeymoon at Sting's Wiltshire house, Madonna returned to music. She was seriously working on the project for the upcoming tour. Unfortunately, the tour was overshadowed by September 11th. At that time, people did not like concerts. The population was in a panic. This tragedy changed the world forever. In her next album, American Life, Madonna questioned American ideals. This album was her reaction to the events of 9/11 and the war in Iraq. The bewilderment and anger that reigned in her soul at that time resulted in new songs. The album recording began in late 2001, but was put on hold during the filming of the movie Swept Away. It was Guy Ritchie's third film, but it is still considered by many fans to be the worst of his career. The movie earned only $1 million, having a budget of $10 million, and there were a lot more negative reviews than positive ones. 15 years later, Guy Ritchie would say that at first he really enjoyed the filming process and working with his beloved wife, but he understood that the audience might not accept the abrupt transition from crime thrillers to romantic comedy. Actually, that's exactly what happened. Madonna returned to the studio in the summer of 2002 when the debate about the American invasion of Iraq was in full swing. If Like a Prayer was a divorce album, then American Life is her psychoanalysis. Madonna even mentioned Sigmund Freud and asked endless questions. Who am I? Where am I going? What does it all mean? Most of the songs are laced with sarcasm, starting with the openly pessimistic title track American Life and ending with the spicy Nobody Knows Me. For the album presentation, Madonna chose a radical image. As for Like a Prayer, she dyed her hair black and recreated Che Guevara's classic look on the cover. However, her revolutionary fervor was quickly extinguished by the story that happened with the band Dixie Chicks. Singer Natalie Maines openly spoke out against the policies of George W. Bush, accusing him of an unjust invasion of Iraq. After that, they began to threaten her with violence. Radio stations refused to play their songs, and they lost a large part of their audience. They were called Saddam's Angels, traitors. Several DJs were even fired from radio stations when they continued to play their music, and the American Red Cross even refused to accept donations from them. Madonna and Bruce Springsteen came to their defense, but similar curses flew in their direction. Apparently, scared of such a reaction, Madonna kept silent and decided to postpone the video release for the song American Life. I have decided not to release my new video. It was filmed before the war started, and I do not believe it is appropriate to air it at this time. Due to the volatile state of the world, and out of sensitivity and respect for the armed forces who I support and pray for, I do not want to risk offending anyone who might misinterpret the meaning of this video. For this position, Madonna received immediate criticism from two sides. Pacifists were unhappy that she refused to show the music video, and those who supported Bush believed that she did not express her position clearly enough. Despite the fact that the album was more about love and fame, it was considered unpatriotic. Nobody noticed the love in the songs and didn't appreciate the beauty of the acoustic guitar, and although the core of Madonna's audience did not go anywhere, the album did not sell well. After the success of Michael Moore's anti-war film Fahrenheit 9/11, the creators woke up and began to speak out against canceling Dixie Chicks and everyone who disagreed with the official position of the American government. And although Madonna avoided the subject in her next album, she found herself again at the center of the scandal.
Unfortunately, I feel like America's in a really volatile place right now, and there's a lot of really confused people. And I'm not interested in being a target.
In August 2003, during the MTV Awards ceremony, two young girls appeared on stage dressed in wedding dresses, Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera. Together with Madonna dressed in a groom costume, they performed the song Like a Virgin, after which Madonna blessed them in her own way. It was increasingly difficult to withstand the competition with young stars. Most of the time, she led a quiet family life in England. She enjoyed nature, spent time with her children, and devoted herself to her husband. On August 16, 2005, on her birthday, Madonna went horseback riding. Suddenly, the horse stumbled and threw her to the ground. She was brought to a hospital in Salisbury with 3 broken ribs, a collarbone, and an arm. Madonna was placed in a separate room, prescribed painkillers, and advised to rest for the next 3 months. But a month after the accident, she felt the need to appear before the audience again. For this, she needed an album. Barely recovering from the fractures, she focused on writing the album, which was called Confessions on a Dance Floor, and was recorded together with Stuart Price. This album is a tribute to the idols of their youth, the ABBA band. Remembering the previous album, many expected her to make the next political statement, but the new release dispelled those expectations. This album returned Madonna to the first positions in the charts of 40 countries around the world, and the upcoming big tour in support of the release brought her back to the stage she missed so much. In 2005, Madonna took part in the charity event Live Aid, the organizers of which collected funds to help people in underdeveloped countries. This experience made her fall in love with Africa, specifically Malawi. She saw the everyday misery that became a norm in those countries and wanted to help in some way. During her visit to Africa, Madonna got acquainted with 13-year-old boy David from an orphanage, adopted him, and wanted to make a documentary about Malawi. Together with a huge film crew and a bunch of guards, they went to the shelter. The local authorities did not approve this gesture. She was sued, and the media presented information as if Madonna had bought a child for her own PR. This time, Madonna decided not to remain silent and fought off the accusations as best she could. She said that when she and Guy first got to that orphanage, David was sick with pneumonia. There was almost no medicine, so they decided to pick him up and take him to a real hospital. Despite all the accusations and attempts to exonerate Madonna, there was one less unfortunate child in Malawi. 2006 was a year of career growth and emotional experiences. She released a successful album, arranged a brilliant tour. Just look at how people reacted to the news that she was going on a new tour.
No, I'm going on tour this summer.
At the same time, it was at that period that she had to fight for her marriage and to justify her good reputation because of David's adoption. Rebelling against Madonna's habit of controlling everything, Guy increasingly disappeared with friends, hunting, fishing, or simply hiding from her in bars. Trying to prove his independence, he sometimes went too far. They both wanted everything to be fine, but their relationship continued to fall apart. Madonna missed America and dreamed of moving to New York, while Guy did not want to leave London. In January, the couple, portraying a happy family, appeared at the premiere of Luc Besson's animated film Arthur and the Invisibles, where Madonna voiced Princess Selenia. Madonna held Guy's hand and looked at him as if he was her life, but there were already rumors that she was going to return to New York. Before we continue, we would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to our channel and hit the bell button. As you can see, the video is long and informative. We would really like to see your support. Thank you very much, and let's continue. In 2008, many important changes took place in Madonna's life. Christopher Ciccone, her brother, published a book called Life with My Sister Madonna, and she tried to cancel the publication. Perhaps she was afraid that her brother would reveal unnecessary details of her life, but the book was published after all. And maybe it was just a marketing strategy, as there was nothing sensational in the book. In the fall of the same year, Madonna broke up with Guy Ritchie. Despite the fact that for many years they tried to preserve this relationship for their children's sake, further joint existence turned out to be impossible. As a result of the divorce, Richie received about £60 million. Moreover, the couple divided the time they would spend with their children. Shortly thereafter, Madonna applied to adopt another child from Malawi, but was initially denied because she was not a resident of Malawi. After an appeal, the Supreme Court granted her the right to adopt a girl named Mercy. Although this year the singer released the 11th studio album, Hard Candy, among the guest artists you could see Timberlake, Timbaland, Pharrell Williams. There were also enough hits, for example, the single 4 Minutes. It reached 3rd position in the Billboard Hot 100 chart, which allowed Madonna surpassing Elvis Presley for the number of hits on this chart. At the end of the decade, Madonna was the top-selling solo artist of the decade, with earnings of over $801 million. The single's success failed to affect the overall picture. This album was different in that Madonna fully trusted Timbaland's vision and did not participate in the production of 5 songs. Whether this was the reason, but the album became one of the biggest commercial failures of her musical career. In 2012, Madonna received her 2nd Gold Globe, this time for the song Masterpiece. The composition was written specifically for her directorial debut in a feature film. She directed the film W.E., which told the story of the relationship between King Edward VIII and his lover, whom he abdicated for. By the way, this award ignited a conflict between Madonna, Elton John, and his husband. The fact is that they were presented in the same category, and when Madonna won, David Furnish could not stand it and wrote an angry post on Facebook where he called her untalented. Elton John also spoke about Madonna in the past in a similar way more than once, especially when she was recognized as the best concert performer. Then David Furnish tried to smooth out that conflict. He even invited Madonna to the rehearsal of his and John's wedding, but Madonna ignored him. In February 2012, Madonna performed at halftime of the 46th Super Bowl in the image of an ancient goddess in the company of Roman legionnaires and gathered 114 million Americans in front of the screens. At that time, it was an absolute record that was even included in the Guinness Book of World Records. On that day, 54-year-old Chacon arranged a 12-minute show and at the same time promoted her new album. 12th album, MDNA, was released in March 2012 and immediately debuted at the top of the Billboard 200. From May to December, Madonna toured with her new show, which became the highest grossing of the year and the 10th in the history of music, and also earned her $300 million per 88 concerts. Many of these funds were directed to charity, both in the United States and abroad. In 2013, her charity Raising Malawi built 10 schools to educate 4,000 children in Malawi, which remains one of the poorest countries in the world. Her hometown, Detroit, which was the industrial center of the United States in the last century, is now going through hard times. So Madonna helps the city's residents and funds educational projects and initiatives related to the arts. Since a long time ago, Madonna spent money not only on herself, but also on others.
I give money to cancer research. And,
In 2014, an Israeli hacker hacked Madonna's computer, which stored her unreleased album at that time. Due to this, about 40 demo versions of songs from the upcoming album Rebel Heart were leaked to the internet. Despite this, the album was still released the following year, although it showed the worst sales results of the singer's entire career. Unlike her previous works, where she invited a few artists to work with, here she collaborated with a large number of musicians, including Avicii, Diplo, and Kanye West. Music critics reacted positively to the album. Some called it the best of the last decade. Hardly then and now, Madonna is worried about her album's sales, especially since the tour in support of Rebel Heart made Madonna the record holder among solo artists for the amount of money earned from ticket sales. Her track record of accomplishments is truly impressive. There are albums, tours, awards, sales, almost $1 billion in a 40-year career. It seemed that at any moment it would be possible to stop and simply enjoy what has been achieved. But this is clearly not about Madonna. She continues to be involved in charity and business, but creativity does not fade into the background. Her 2023 started with her announcing a massive tour to celebrate her 40th year in music. 35 cities and 84 concerts have been planned. It is obvious that it's not about money, but about obsession with the stage. On June 24, 2023, Madonna was hospitalized after being found unconscious in her apartment. She had to spend 5 days in the intensive care unit, due to which the first part of the big tour was also postponed. Madonna wrote that she had a bacterial infection, but some believe that hospitalization is the result of her almost endless 40-year marathon on stage. Now she's recovering and preparing to continue her grand tour, and then start a new one, and then another one. She depends on the stage, but this dependence is mutual. Think about it. It's 2023, and tickets for her concerts sold out in the first days after the announcement. Is there even one performer of her generation who could boast of such results? We don't think so. Madonna is a unique character, an imprint of several eras, and she's in perfect shape. Without any doubt, the mere fact that we are talking about Madonna now proves that she has definitely stood the test of time. Moreover, sometimes it seems that she conquered time. You and we don't have such an opportunity, so we hope you spent your time with pleasure. If you liked this one, we have many more videos on the channel about outstanding and almost immortal musicians. Choose any one and enjoy. You were watching ENKO Stories. We hope to see you soon.